Literally spelled it right with the copying. He scored 0 on that. He does write multiple letters that are not eligible. There are big spaces in between his letters, and he does go past like the line that are provided to him. So with my ABC data and the interviews that
I'm gonna turn my volume off, well, because I'm still in this other class. Okay.
Okay.
Michaela, have you been on your email?
Behavior and then asking before doing providing the option.
I forwarded some information to you about increasing play skills in kids and some literature. I thought you might be interested.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Nice background.
So that is important.
Was she commenting about the background of the presentation?
I think so. Is that what you're talking about, Linda?
What?
You're talking about the background of the presentation.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I have to get over to my class.
I'm gonna grab a drink really quickly and then I'll be right back.
Okay. I think, Michaela, I would like to introduce you, and if you're ready. Great. So welcome to our Parent Cafe today. This is a series, and this is our second session. And this session is going to be about routines and schedules and how to help your child have a good routine as well. And just want to mention that this is a series that is funded by the DHHS Preschool Development Grant IBT PBS Sub Award, and also supported in part through the Cigna PBS KU Medical Center Award. So in general, we just want to talk about ways and strategies that may help you better support your children's behavioral and mental well-being throughout this series. And I see that Cassie already put a link in the chat. So if you can take a couple of minutes and just click through that survey and help us create give us some information and feedback, that would be great. And you will receive this survey link at the beginning of the session and also at the end, so we can have some pre and post data. And this is super helpful so that we can report back to our funders so we can continue provide trainings like this for free. This webinar is being recorded, and we can send you the link. So in that survey link, there will be an email address. So we will send that to you or other resources that we mentioned in the email as well. And feel free to ask any questions in the chat throughout the session. And our presenter today will help answer any questions during and after the presentation as well. And we are gonna start introduce our great presenter, Michaela, today. And our presenter today is Michaela McHenry Paul. And Miss Michaela, has many talents and wears many hats. And she's the clinical director of the IBT, or Integrated Behavioral Technologies, which is a nonprofit organization that serves a lot of children with autism across the state of Kansas. And she's also the Northeast Kansas autism specialist. And she also is a master level psychologist and is a Kansas Institute of Positive Behavior Support trained PBS facilitator. Remember, this is a positive behavior support grant, and she's really an expert on PBS. And she has a lot of experience implementing behavioral supports to families and children with challenging behavior, with diagnosis of autism or not. So she's also having a lot of experience with early diagnosis, including developmental disabilities and anxiety and mood disorders, OCD, and a lot of other behavioral disorders as well. And she also is a great OASIS parent training coach, and she does training with families and really brings a lot of knowledge and passion to the topic for this evening. And thank you all for being here. And then welcome, Ms. Michaela, for the presentation.
Thank you, Alice. What a wonderful, warm welcome that was. As she mentioned, it is one of my favorite things to talk about, establishing and maintaining routines, especially for families. I love OASIS parent training, doing it inside the home and my community-based settings, as well as doing it via telehealth, and also getting to do that same type of dialogue to establish and maintain a routine with a family. And I get to share that with you guys today. So I'm really looking forward to it. The next slide that we are going to be looking at is the story link. So if we could go ahead and get that link posted up in our chat, that would be wonderful. You guys all get the opportunity to provide your story to the state. So go ahead and follow that link in the chat, and you'll be able to provide them some good information so we can make some positive changes for our Kansas families. And feel free to do that after this beautiful presentation, because there's so much information on here. I want to make sure we're hitting on everything and that everybody has all the resources. So this presentation is talking about establishing and maintaining routines. So we're actually going to pull those apart and break them down. So first we're going to start off with establishing routines. All right. So, these are the standard things that we know as clinicians or caregivers or parents about routines and schedules. We've heard it since we found out we were pregnant or started in this field. Routines and schedules need to be taught directly. So we teach our children how to brush their teeth at bedtime. And that is a routine that we follow right before we go to our bed, and we get our PJs on, and then I get tucked into bed. We teach those skills, especially when we have our younger children, but sometimes we have to learn that those schedules may actually vary. And so that's where we have to teach flexibility in those routines or schedules. And it really is based on how interested your child is, whether you're a caregiver or a parent. You want to make sure that you're stacking your cards right so you can get the outcome that you most desire. That is the most rewarding for you as the caregiver or parent or provider, or for your child as well, which is so pleasant, especially at bedtime, let me tell you. So we need to make sure that we're developing a schedule that is highly preferred activities are built in after our non-preferred activities, which is super helpful. And I don't know if everybody gets told that, but I wanted to include it because I knew y'all were smart. And naturally, routines and schedules should inherently be flexible, because in life, what we can count on is change. And one of my biggest mentors tells me that all the time. And sometimes there's going to be a fire drill, and sometimes you're going to lose your shoe because it gets stuck in a grate, as you're walking down the street, and it really stinks. But we have to teach our kiddos that and how to be flexible when our routines and when our schedules are just a mess. So these are the things that we can say are a part of a child's daily schedule. For example, we look at block time. So anything that we can get with our hands. We're building tall towers, or we're looking at pyramids and structures. We could be looking at connecting different pieces. So we're really working on those fine motor skills, but we could also be working on social interactions during that time too. When we're thinking about establishing a schedule, we really want to think about how we're going to plan it out. What sequence are we going to put it in? Sometimes our snack time is the most rewarding time of the day for some kids who are heavily food motivated, but some kids could care less. Other kids really want to go outside. So really thinking about the dynamic of your environment. So most of your children within your environment really like going outside. So how can you set it up to be the most successful for you as the caregiver of this child or group of children? And man, again, like I was talking last week, it's nice to have some power back. Finally, I have some reinforcement strategies in my tool belt, and now I'm getting a heavy dose of how to get a schedule going. So my tool belt's getting kind of big now. So welcome to Parent Cafes. All right. So things to consider in daily schedule planning. We really have to balance out the time of the activities. We really need to make sure we have a specific duration or time that we're going to do it, where we can control a lot of what is happening. So we can increase reinforcements, especially if we're asking our kiddos to do something that they really don't want to do. So knowing how long we're going to be in that non-preferred activity, as well as how often we're participating in that non-preferred activity, is really going to be a lifesaver for establishing your schedule that's going to last for a long amount of time. All right. We also want to consider who else is there. When I'm doing parent training, sometimes I really just start with mostly moms who are working with their children, but I'm really looking at how can I involve dads or grandparents who are in the environment, and how can I wrap around their schedule into this child's schedule to create a good family systems mobile that all is rotating nicely together. So everybody is feeling involved in this schedule and how it's being implemented, which will then maintain the routine over time. But I also don't want to discount siblings, because they are also one of our best peer models. And so if we're getting them involved in our schedule and our routines, and we're using strategies like differential reinforcement, like giving praise to kiddos who are doing the expected behavior, we're likely to see that all of our children within the family system engage in the appropriate behavior, because attention is the currency of childhood. So if we keep that motto in mind, siblings can be just as big of a help as the adults within our environment as well. Different learners are aware at different rates. They could be, I'm focused and I want to engage in these activities, or they're like, I can sit for 1 minute and then I'm going because I can't sit in this chair no longer. So really be mindful about how long you're planning your activities with your learner, and your schedules, because they could just not be alert and attending to what you're actually doing. Also being aware of, especially for our providers and those who are in the field, the cultural and linguistic backgrounds of everybody, being aware of different diversity, and making sure that we have good family consent, and we're really involving our families in what we're doing with them and their schedule. And having a judgment-free discussion with them about it, no matter what kind of biases we may have when assisting in this schedule planning. Also, we want to make sure that we are engaging in lots of play, because when we're getting our blood flowing, there's been lots of research that we actually see happier moods. And so what we're hoping is that by we're playing and we're practicing these behaviors, we're actually increasing play behaviors, but we're also increasing happy mood endorphins throughout the body as well. So it's really important to keep that in mind when you're developing your schedule as well. All right. As you see in this beautiful slide here, at the bottom, there says www.environments.com. That one has a visual cue of daily picture schedules. This allows the children to really see what you're going to do. So we can condition that this picture means that we're going to do this activity. So especially for our younger learners or individuals with intellectual disabilities, it can be really helpful at first when we start learning our schedule to pair with a visual. And this is where we can find that material that's quick and easy. And then we can shape it up and when they start to read writing, as well as not needing a schedule at all. And they just know what's next based on task completion, which is kind of like what we do when we're adults. So, you know, that's great. All right, time for our first activity. Super stoked. All right, so we're going to think about this. We are going to think about some possible changes to the environment that we could make in our schedule to minimize or eliminate problem behavior. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in our chat, and we'll be monitoring our chat, all the potential environmental changes that we could make for each phrase. So first I'm going to ask you to think about it. We'll give everybody 2 minutes to think about it, and then I'll ask for responses. So if I said The children are just restless. How could I change my environment or my schedule? Or when I'm thinking about establishing my schedule, how can I minimize or eliminate children being restless? All right, if you guys have some answers, you can go ahead and start typing them in the chat so we can talk about them. Nice, Andrea. Yep. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alice. Anyone else? I see a pattern. We have 3 in a row. So scheduling more breaks is very nice when we're defining our schedule to decrease or minimize or even eliminate this problem behavior. But would you guys even consider give them a task to do? Thanks, Cassie. So would you guys consider that potentially that within the environment and within the schedule, you have created an environment that is boring, or that they are satiated on everything within the environment, or you say, go outside and play, but it's the same old toy set they've had for 5 years, and I'm going to go sit on the ground because pulling out the grass is so much better than playing. So we really have to think about what's in our environment. We might have to create more centers. We might have to change up our stimuli and let them be involved in that process so they get their energy out and so they're not restless. So our schedule is effective and our routines can maintain because our children are happy and our family members are happy as well. But also everybody needs a little bit of a break sometime too. So making sure that those are planned in there as well really helps the environment as a whole know what's coming next. So very nice, everybody. All right, let's do the next one. So we're really thinking about how we could change the environment or the schedule or the routine to minimize or eliminate the problem. So I hear a teacher, a caregiver say, these children just don't know how to pay attention during story time, and it just drives me crazy because all I want to do is read them a storybook before they go to bed, and they don't even pay attention to me. Whew, I've had some moms who are pretty heated because they want that time with their kids. So I want you to really think about how you could arrange your schedule, or what could we do to the environment to minimize or eliminate this problem. Nice. Yeah, so let those answers flood in and what we think that we could do. I like these. So Tori, I really see, I think, correct me if you're wrong, like where you're going with this is kind of like restricted access. Like I'm only going to read stories to you during this specific time, so you can only have access to it and make it more rewarding to attend to. But also I'm seeing choice Absolutely. And all of my behavior intervention plans, it is the #1 proactive strategy that you will always see on every single behavior. If you're going to have a good proactive strategy, you want to make sure that choice is available. Even within our schedule, we have to be flexible with the things that we could be doing that day and get to take a choice on what we get to do and why we get to do it. But you said it better. Oh, I'm flattered. Thank you, Tori. No, that was great. It was a beautiful other way to look at this behavior. So I'm glad that you added it. Let's see. The other thing that I like to consider, and this is a big debate in my house, as I would say my Powell clan of 4 house, is just not only how we're presenting play with our children, but being flexible with how they're playing with the items or how they want to engage with the items. So we call that in the psych realm like functional fixedness. Like I can only read the book like this because this is how books are read. But when we are letting our children lead and we are letting them explore their environment, they're actually getting more from it. So if I have a learner who likes to listen, who has a more auditory processor, so that's the way that they like to learn versus hands-on reading, I'm going to turn on a CD player to help them attend, because looking at the book is actually more punishing than it would be to actually listen to the story so they can engage in it. All right, so we'll do one more. Let's see. So what could we say for children being restless during nap time? So I put a specific environment and a time frame. So we are in our bedroom for nap time or bedtime. So what would I do? Nice. Let those responses go ahead and roll them in. Nice. Absolutely. We do want to make them more engaged in exercise or active movements prior to bedtime, but also having a bedtime and a bedtime routine. So we can be active like right after supper, if depending on what time you guys get home. I get home relatively late. So my family is home by 7 o'clock in the evening. We're eating dinner. We're done with dinner at 7:30. The boys are active from 7:30 until 8. Then 8 o'clock is bath time and 8:30 is bedtime. So book in bed. And that's the way we try to keep it. Does it always happen? Absolutely not. But we want to make sure that we get their blood active. So we're doing parkour down in the basement and they're jumping over our love seat and our sofa. They're chasing each other around and, underneath our staircase, which I'm absolutely wonderful, happy with, because you know what? They're getting better sleep. And those kiddos who have better sleep actually are in better moods most commonly because their brain needs more sleep than most adults do. So I like, Tori, how you said make a bedtime and stick to it. Yes, we want to encourage that we have a range. Like I want the ideal time to be the child is in bed by 8:30. However, I'm going to say plus or minus 15 minutes. So I am not failing because we want to have some flexibility within our schedule or within our routine. Now, will it completely get demolished? Absolutely, it will. But if we know and we have that expectation in our head and we've communicated it with our partner, if we have children or if we're in a group environment, so, hey, I'm going to do this from this time to this time, and this is all of the things that I'm doing, And I want to make sure that they're in bed by 8:30. Can you help me? Yes. It helps with a lot of different things, and we're actually going to talk about what it actually helps to have a specific time. You guys did so good with that activity. All right. Oh, this is where we were going. So Tori, thank you for leading me here. I'm so happy. All right. So as we do this, and we talk about the importance of routines and schedules, we want to identify that there is an influence on emotional, cognitive, and social development of children when there is structure and routine within their day-to-day life. It helps them feel secure. They know what's coming up next. They help them understand the expectations of their environment. Remember how I said we're teaching them discreetly or those specific skills or specific behaviors that they should be engaging in within that specific environment? It helps them understand how they should behave. And then hopefully they will be able to generalize that or also do that skill across multiple places that they go. So when I'm going to grandma's house, they're doing the same thing at bedtime when it's time to get ready for bed, like they do at home. It's the hopeful thing. Or when they go to grandma's house, they're doing their chores at the same time that they would be doing them at my house, because we have that established expectation. It reduces problem behaviors. And I love this, especially as you start getting up into your teenage years, because that negotiation verbal behavior starts to pop out at random. And so schedules and routines, especially for teens, are really important. And I'm learning that the hard way. So any parents out there that want to chit chat, my email is going to be at the end. Teens are rough and I love it. But we want to really see higher rates of child engagement. We want our families to be able to participate together. We want them to know their classroom schedules. We want them to be engaged and attentive and learn new knowledge because they know what's coming up next. I don't have to worry about where my next food is coming from because I know that lunchtime is at 12 and that is after I get back inside from recess. And so they actually get to have a different wrinkle in their brain because they're not worried about where my food's going to come from, or when it's nap time, they're going to know because the schedule dictates it and I'm in my routine. All right. So I would like to say with that, there are many things that we all have to do every day. You know, I think about this even now as I'm doing this, you know, this parent cafe. I am in control of my life, and you are in control of what you do in your routine, in your life. And you can do the things you want to do. But you have to do that by having a routine. And knowing what you want to put into that routine is what it's going to help you maintain it over time. So when you don't have that routine, you can feel out of control. You can feel disorganized, or things every day that you would normally do just become absolutely harder, like changing the roll of toilet paper when it's empty. You just become absolutely burnt out at the end of the day. And so give yourself some grace and get yourself some routines established so you can feel organized and you can feel in control. And every day can be easier if you just do it, right? I say this to myself because it's hard. And so we're about to explore that together. But before we do, I want to check in and see, are there any questions or comments before we figure out how to make our lives easier and maintain these routines?
I have a question. Obviously, I don't want to take anyone else time to ask the question, but I'm curious about, like we always talk about schedule and a routine together. Do you feel like are they the same thing, or maybe are they like, I don't know, are they different or the same thing?
So I think it actually depends on how each individual person defines it. So some people work better on just having an overview of their day, which I would call a schedule, but they may say that's their routine because it's what they do every single day, but it's more blocked out in a time format, versus my morning routine, which my morning routine could be from 6 o'clock a.m. to 11:59 a.m. So is that my morning routine or is that a schedule? So I think it really depends on what label is appropriate for the environment and what is conducive for the learner, and the family system itself. But to me, I believe that they could be interchangeable. And I think it's kind of, but I would love to do some more digging in the research and see if they have it operationally defined. It's a good question, Alice. Any other thoughts or questions? My pleasure. Alice, I'm going to make sure I have a note of it so I can make sure I look it up for you, and kind of get back to you. Good question, Cassie. Please feel free, guys, also to chime in if you have been, are you a provider or clinician in the field, and or you're a caregiver who has used or experienced visual schedules. Feel free to jump in the chat too. I don't want it to be just me right now, just kind of chit-chatting away. I want it to be it's our social time. This is COVID friendly social time. So visual schedules can be created in various ways. So for younger learners, typically, if I can give my own perspective, I take pictures of the environment that they will be in, as well as the tasks that they may engage in based on the lesson plans that have been pre-prepped by the classroom teachers, as well as our current targets and visual stimuli of those. So she can select what she wants to accomplish first. So I really love to use those visuals because they're very similar, if not the same, as the child's environment for a little learner. So they're understanding that one-to-one correspondence. When I pick this picture, that means I'm going to get these things. So it's kind of multifaceted. Or this is where I am going. So I think it's really cool. But you can make them with different types of clocks. So we have children who are learning how to read analog clocks or digital clocks, and we create a little visual and it says at this time, this is where we're going. Look at the clock on your or in your backpack. And so it reminds them how they need to check what time they're going to go somewhere else, but they have a visual prompt to tell them what to do. One thing that I didn't put in here, but this just reminded me, prompts don't always have to be visual in regards to our schedule and keeping us on time. And we're going to talk about it a few slides down about different ways that we can help ourselves maintain our routines. But there was some awesome research for individuals with ADHD and having a wristwatch that buzzed, that signaled that this individual needed to check their planner to make sure that they were on task, to make sure that they were completing the assignment that they needed to be doing. But it was a nice way that they could be discreet, especially for our, adolescents, young adults, or even adults who need a little bit of extra assistance. I think it's lovely to have that reminder or prompt to engage in that routine. Yep, exactly. Just like that. Fitbits, Apple Watches, they try to get us to exercise or breathe. Oh, that's my favorite one. Got to take that deep breath when my Apple Watch says, you're not breathing. I think I'm doing okay. But it's really nice that they have invented these kind of fun things as well. Potty watches are also another thing. So we have children where we build in potty breaks. So they're going to the bathroom, but kids also love wearing their potty watch. And every time it goes off, there's a picture of a little toilet that's dancing back and forth as it vibrates on their wrist. So I think it's really cool because we're now using culturally sensitive materials to teach our kids because that's what mommy and daddy have. That's what my brother, sister, aunt, uncle, special caregiver has. That's the same as them. Awesome. I'm glad, Cassie. So it can spark a whole variety of different things and how we can really fit our schedule and our daily life and our routine to what is functional to you and the family system itself, which is so important. Because don't forget, if one piece of that mobile or mobile, however you want to say, is off, then your entire system is going to collapse. And so we have to work effectively and efficiently to figure out if it's going to be, I'm going to use my calendar on my phone, or I have my notepad that I like to write on. But we'll talk some more about that in just a sec. All right. So remember, like I said, either we're going to do this the easy way or we're going to do it the hard way. So I think it's really awesome if we could all work together and help ourselves through this routine, establishing, list, and maintaining endeavors we have. So, I think, how do routines make me feel? So I think about this lovely girl on the left, and it was my hope in college to really feel like this. I was going to be that firstborn daughter who was going to have her routine and have her things together, but I didn't. And that literally, the picture on the right, not having a routine, my dorm room actually ended up at one point covered in sticky notes. Not by myself, my residents actually did it, but I used it because I wasn't going to waste the sticky notes, but it was definitely what it felt like not having a routine. So just imagine if this is how, if you relate at all to me, and you want that picture on the left, now think about it from your children's perspective, or the ones you love, or you're providing care for, and think about it from their perspective. Do they have all the tools in their tool belt like you do? Probably not. So when you have your routine out of control, how do you think their life is? Just as out of control as yours. And that little life is impacted by the decisions you make. So in order to feel in control, you have to jump on that schedule and follow it until it becomes a habit. And we label specific routines that we need to engage in, and we do it in a fun way. So it's organized, and it is not a punisher or a chore for our family to be together and engage in together. This is also, it's tax time, friends. I'm sure a lot of you have got your W-2s and like, I want to go. And I'm going to go do this. And I need to go pay my tags on my car. And I need to go do this. Well, if I don't have my planner and I know what day I'm working with what client, with what parent, with what meeting, I am not going to have any idea how to go cash this check or do this to-do list or pay my bills or do my taxes. I'm not going to have any idea. And then when I go to get my taxes done, I'm going to have this shoebox full of paperwork and I'm going to say, tax guy, please help me. Because clearly I do not have a routine for organizing my tax paperwork as an adult. But now think about that if it was your child's backpack. Can we put it a part of our nightly routine that at 7 we eat dinner and at 7:30 when we're all done, we're going to look into our backpack and see what we did today? Or, hey man, let's go on Power School and let's check your grades. Or, hey man, I know you've been talking about getting that car you really wanted. Let's check your bank account and see how it's going. It's just all of those stages where routines, when we're working for things we want or working for family time, it makes you feel good when you can accomplish those things. And it teaches our children how to do it too, which I think is really important to model for them, is that they can make time for themselves and share about their day. All right, last one of these fun things. How do routines make you feel when you have a routine and then not having a routine? I don't know about all of you. I love to hike, but this picture on the left looks so much more pleasing to me than the picture on the right. That is like straight up, like vertical. And I don't know if I could actually do that, but you know what? Not having routine absolutely makes me feel like I am doing that almost every single day. And when my routine is off, I can tell because I'm working on that climb. But if I have my routine, majority of my days are going to be like the routine desired walk that's on the left side, which is going to make that one bad day on the right side okay, because I didn't have to deal with it like I did before my routine was already in place. And so I was dealing with it every day and I was exhausted. So also considering that for our families, how are we being and building a conducive routine where everyone feels like they get to walk a steady path? Yes, Morgan, it is. And Dr. Linda, it is much more pleasant. And I would like to give a shout out to her because I hear her voice in my head. We really have to think about the individuals around us when we're making these choices about what schedules we want to implement and when we want to do things, because not everybody is a morning person and not everybody is a night owl. Not everybody likes to brush their teeth and spitting their stuff in the sink. Some people like to brush their teeth in the shower. And so how can we make that conducive a part of their morning routine or evening routine, right? And I think we have to be flexible when we're looking at it to help the system grow. So we are not all, or not just one of us, trudging through or up this steep incline. And I tell this to parents all the time. I understand you took this on as your battle, and it is, and I'm along for the ride, and this is our journey together. But it doesn't have to be an upward incline hike to do it. We can work together so you feel supported as well. You are valuable too, and your happiness and your success is also important. So I want parents to keep that in mind too, or caregivers to keep that in mind when they're working with their children or their other family members, that you matter and you don't have to sacrifice and walk that incline climb. Maybe it can be shortened, knock it out a little bit. Alice, this might help answer that question. Dr. Linda, I'll come back to that in just a little bit, okay? So an example of a routine and how we would define it really would be like, I'm gonna get out of bed, I'm gonna go brush my teeth and take a shower, and I'm gonna get dressed and eat breakfast. All of that, those 5 things, I'm going to count that as my morning routine. So that's an example. But my morning routine is completed from, or scheduled to be completed from 8 to 9 a.m. where all 5 of those tasks have to be done in order for me to access my wonderful cup of warm coffee before I leave my house. Right? So I want to make sure I am having that routine available. So like I mentioned in the beginning, I want to stack it. So my last thing that I'm going to get if I complete my routine is super, super valuable. I'm more likely to complete my routine and maintain it over time because I'm using positive reinforcement, because I get access to that desired item. But I'm also using negative reinforcement because I am removing the aversive, out of control feeling to increase the likelihood I'm actually going to do these things, because it is less painful to just do the darn routine than not. So I love that. Let's see if I don't do things in the routine. Oh, yes. That's kind of funny that I went into that and I didn't even read your comment. So yes, Dr. Linda, you're right on par. I also really want to highlight this too. When we talk about sleep, I really encourage families to do their research, especially if they have a child or if a caregiver is working with a child who has difficulties with sleep. Really look into what the literature is out there, especially when you're setting up your schedule and what is really important to the family. You know, I've learned many years working in this field. I'm not going to teach every child to be a circus performer, but if I have a family who are a bunch of circus performers, I'm going to teach that child how to be a circus performer. So if every night when I go to bed, they want to put lilac oil on their child, or that's a part of the routine that they're doing, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to teach the child how to hold the bottle. We're going to roll it on her belly right before she goes to bed. And that's exactly what we're going to do, because that's what the family wants. But I really encourage lots of research to be done for sleep, because there's lots of different procedures that can be done to shape appropriate routine following. So lots to do with smells and calming techniques and emotional regulation techniques, but also self-monitoring. I'm setting my alarm clock before I get into my bed, and my alarm clock is across my bedroom, so I have to stand up to go turn it off. I'm making sure that my bed is turned down before I go brush my teeth and wash my face, because my glasses are broken and I have to walk to my bedroom and can't see to pull my blankets down, right? So I have to know these types of routines and what special steps I have to do within that scheduled time so I can actually achieve it. So sleep's a tricky one, guys. All right, comprehension check, excuse me. So I don't know if you guys have this, but sometimes the chats let us do fun things like give thumbs up, or in our reactions. If everybody could react, thumbs up if you think routines make it easier, or give me a shocked face if you think routines make life harder. Oh, look at all of you. You guys are on point. Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. So a routine really is something that is a daily occurrence. We're going to do this every day. So I want to make sure that that is clear to my learner or the child I'm caring for as a parent or a caregiver, or they're grown up, as I would say. So sometimes kids don't know the specific steps they have to engage in to complete that routine. Like I mentioned in several slides ago, a part of my morning routine is 5 different things. I said, get out of bed, go brush your teeth, take a shower, get dressed, and eat breakfast. Well, what happens if I forget that, second step? So I need to make sure that I have that specific step and it is taught to that child. So making sure that the routine is something important and that it has to be done. So it has to have a really important value. And that's where we really create work ethic. And I know that seems, for those of you who were with us on the last Parent Cafe or first Parent Cafe, we want to increase the reinforcing value. We want the child to be really excited when we give praise to them, because we get to say, wow, look at what you did. That means so much to me because it is so important, and that just has to be done. Like taking out the trash. That's a Sunday evening routine for my family, and it stinks and it really is not fun. But man, my 13-year-old absolutely loves 5 minutes of snuggle time for doing that important task, because he gets that nice, valuable reinforcer afterwards. And sometimes I have to put those visual reminders back up to do it. And even with that prompt, I can still end up fading it because I'm creating that contingency to make it really important. Because sometimes I need that extra rip of that Velcro to help really remember what's my next step. And like Dr. Linda mentioned, we really use visuals so they can complete the routine and they know how to do it with each specific step. And they can understand why each step is so important. This is my favorite. Because sometimes kids just don't get it, and they just don't keep themselves clean. Like, what is this thing that you have right here, like on your cheek? And so it's like those daily things that every time I'm going in the bathroom, like I'm like staring in the mirror and I'm like pulling my nose up, making sure I don't got no bats. I'm going to, smile in the mirror. Those kind of things. Those are a part of my, routine when I go to the bathroom. So I need to make sure that I'm thinking about all of those things. But do you think our kids do? Absolutely not. So we have to teach those things and things we need to be aware of. But not only that broad routine based, but those specific skills on actually how do you make sure you can get the things out that you see in your teeth? Well, I need to make sure I'm brushing my left molars, and I need to do that 5 times. And then I need to switch it and I need to do my right molars, and I need to do that 5 times. But there's always something that we can break it down with, as it's called a task analysis. And we can teach it based on whatever is the most reinforcing way to the learner for them to learn so they can actually complete the routine. Because man, it's really, really nice when a parent gets to have their night because their child is, can brush their teeth. And it's so cool to just sit back and admire the wonderful glory of my child brushing his teeth independently. When we knew 6 months ago, I was hand over hand prompting him to brush his teeth. So same thing with taking a shower and realizing that day your 10-year-old finally knows how to scrub behind his ears. Shower is a part of that, sometimes morning or evening routine. But when I don't know how to scrub behind my ears and you have to come in 15 times to tell me how to scrub my ears or to make sure I get between my booty crack, I don't want you in my space anymore. And this routine is not fun. So let's make sure we get to teach these skills, make it fun, and reinforce all of those opportunities so completing the schedule can maintain because it's not aversive to complete. This is very true, and I love this slide because our routines, they can adjust, and how we take care of ourselves, how we present ourselves every morning. My routine has recently changed where I'm engaging in meditation and mindfulness exercises in the early morning prior to starting my day, where not a day in my life prior to November of 2020 did I ever do mindfulness. And I'm a master's level clinical psychologist. And just thinking about this, wow, my high school career was really based on this too. I had to go change my outfit because I had to have a first day of school outfit. And then I had to have my, physical activity outfits for cheer or dance practice, but that was also a part of the routine. So thinking about all of that pressure as an adolescent or a young adult, and thinking about everything I have to prepare for, to go into the workforce, to go to class at a, even if it's a junior college or a D2 school where you're getting your bachelor's, or, they're walking into their master's level classes, all of those things, especially with kids with disabilities or families who are impacted in some type of way, poverty. I don't want to exclude anything because all of those types of variables impact our routines. So making sure that we can accommodate that learning opportunity, but also be aware that these things pile up, and that's where our life gets chaotic and unorganized, especially for a teenager who's learning how to get things in their tool belt, or a young adult who is learning how to adjust to society, where they may never have had a day or opportunity to work or do a social activity by themselves. So how can we teach this within their routine, and how can we reinforce this to make sure that they're ready to go out into the world and be better human beings? So keeping this outlook as our goal for every human we impact is so motivating, especially for me. And some of my staff members have mentioned that as well. Very similar aspect. I'm going to go ahead and keep going. Here's where I was going to talk about the different types of getting our routines and our schedules in order. So some of us have our calendar. It tells us when we need to be working on something. I know some people are very adamant about, I need to answer emails from 3 to 4, and that's, my afternoon break. So from 3 to 4, I'm answering emails, I'm going to the bathroom, I am filling up my coffee cup, and that's my afternoon break. And so that is in my calendar, and I have that allotted time to do it. Not everybody is good at that, keeping to their routines, because they're focused on what they're doing and breaking that task When that timer says it's 3 o'clock, it's really hard. No matter if your phone is beeping at you, I'm just going to shut it off. But this is your routine. Remember that this is your lifesaver from chaos. For some people, that calendar, I have one on my phone and I use a planner as well. I have to have that because that's how I like to do it, because I have to see it and write it out with my own hands. And I did the same thing with my homework. I would print off all the notes and take the notes by hand. But, you know, some people don't like to write by hand. They want it electronic. So finding the best modality for you to complete your routines and how you can see what your schedule looks like through the day and what specific routines may be impacted. I think that that is really important, whether you're using pen and paper, a grid, the back of your hand, a sticky note, you know, a blank sheet of paper, phone, iPad, all of those fun jazz things. Whatever is best for you. Oh, this is so refreshing because it's so true. We know that daily routines help our family life run more smoothly, and we get more time together with our family when we have a good routine. We're making sure our children feel safe. We're developing good life skills and healthy habits. Routines help our parents, you know, myself included, feel organized, and we can have fun with our kids when we're not worrying. And our good routines that are well planned out, they're regular and predictable, allow changes and little hiccups not to be so detrimental. Because when we have chaos on top of chaos on top of chaos, it's just sometimes completely unmanageable. We want to prevent that from happening. All right. Let's see. So think about all the steps involved in routines and write them in the partially completed form. So share your routines. That's all I want to know. I want you to talk amongst yourselves. So what might happen if you completed the steps of each of your routines in a different order every day? So, you know, like Dr. Linda mentioned, she's like, I know when I'm in my routine, I'm putting my glasses on my dresser, then I get my morning, you know, coffee, and then I make sure everyone else is up in the house, and I make breakfast burritos. But if she didn't get to do that, and she made breakfast burritos first, and then she woke up everybody in the house, and then she, you know, didn't have her cup of coffee, and she didn't know where she put her glasses, and she couldn't find her glasses because she didn't follow her morning routine well. But could you imagine? You guys can just type yes or no. Like, could you do your routine in a different order? Yes or no? Nice use of the that little fun reaction. I could, but it wouldn't make a ton of sense. Not preferably. Yeah. I'm glad that you lovelies all think about that, because it is true sometimes there's just a logical order and ways that things work, and how we in our brain, we've compartmentalized it, and this is the way it has to be done. Correct. You forget things. Imagine that if you are just not in your routine. But you're right. We probably could, and we can do it. But a good routine is well planned. It is predictable, and it occurs regularly. Again, just to hit it home, it really makes our kids feel safe. We have, we can increase the predictability of decreased stress for our kids, and it creates healthy lifestyle habits. Because if you're engaging in mindfulness activities and self-care, you're modeling that for your children within their routine. If you are reading and that's a really big thing for you and you want your children to read, you're going to do that too. And they're going to do that with you because mommy and daddy or my caregiver or my person is doing it too. We want those healthy habits, eating dinner together and sitting down together and looking at one another, engaging in verbal communication as a part of that dinner routine helps create healthy habits across the board. And it's good for parents. We get to be in control. The kids' schedule doesn't get to be in charge of our life. We get to be in charge of our work schedule and the things that we're doing when we have a routine and we have structure. We get to be the ones who dictate our free time and get through other daily tasks that we want to do, like go take a shower. And I don't have to have an argument with my husband because we already know what's expected of us, right? And sometimes it's hard to see that with all those other barriers. Like I mentioned, having caregivers come to me, they're just so restless and I cannot get him to stop jumping off of the couch and it is driving me nuts. And then his dad just yells and it's just driving me crazy and I don't know what to do. And I have to say, you know what? We can work through this together, guys. And we will work to create a system approach where everyone can feel like their voice is heard and routines are accommodating for everybody. So we talked about that already. Another comprehension check. So now you guys have your toolboxes. You could do a list. We talked about it. A calendar. You know, just do what you think, boo. We wrapping up here. We're not going to do this one because y'all were proficient on the first one. So nice job assessing your skills. Thank you for paying attention. Much appreciated. But yeah, you know, sometimes we think a part of our daily routines could be playing video games. Well, when we're actually teaching it to our kiddos, that should be, if it's really rewarding for them, it's their motivator. It is what is keeping them enticed to engage in the routine. Self-care is a part of a routine, but that self-care time needs to be contingent sometimes upon doing those tasks or outlining a plan to make sure that you know how you're going to get them done in the future if a break is absolutely needed, which does happen, friends. Okay. So you choose when you do certain routines. So your routine is your responsibility to complete. That is on you if that is what you want to set up. It is not anyone else's responsibility to make sure you follow through with your routine or you following through with your child's routine. You can talk that big talk, but it's no one else's responsibility unless it's agreed upon within the family system. And getting the children's buy-in too. It's really important to have them own their responsibility to completing their routines, a part of their daily schedule, because that's what their job is. All right. So as we get older, some of our things change. Inside this PowerPoint, we can definitely get this to you and make sure you have access to this as well as this recording. There are links that can give some more information on how to ease your child with separation anxiety and how to establish a good morning routine. Really gives you broken down routine times, like thinking about, yeah, I have an after school time, an evening time, a bedtime, even breaking down like weekends versus weekdays and those different types of routines. Also healthychildren.org, turning family time into active time, as well as bedtime routines for school age children. So I know I talk a lot about 2, 3, 4-year-old kiddos, but make sure that you check this out if you've got some school-age kids who are struggling with bedtime too, and consults a professional as well if you're having some difficulties. But making sure that our time is spent on the most important things, and those are the ones that we love. And so making sure we have everything that we can in our tool belt is super important. So with the next 5 minutes, I would like to take the time to open up the chat for questions as well as our post survey, and thank all of you for coming and listening to this beautiful day evening. Yay! You guys were wonderful. My pleasure. I'm so happy that I got to share my expertise with you guys. This is really fun to add in and jump in. I really can't thank the team members and everybody who has assisted with this, because I get to share my passion and do what I'm passionate about with you guys' help. And it really does take a team. So I couldn't do these fun parent cafes and show my personality if it wasn't for all of you who helped with this. So thank you. All right, any questions? If anybody wants the links, I can go back now, I think, and grab them since we've got some time.
Question, Michaela.
Yeah.
In terms of like building a routine, especially like what are the strategies, like, you talked about like visual schedules, and I just wonder, like, especially at the beginning, if the child does not have a routine, especially with the COVID, and a lot of the routines were being disrupted, right, for some families. So like if you want to establish a routine with a parent or a child, what are the suggestions you would have, like where to start?
That's a great question. So I think the best place is going to be, of course, where the biggest problem for the family is. So listening to them and validating their concerns as a parent trainer. I know that's where I'm going to go first, but also as a parent and a caregiver and a clinician, that's a tricky question. I can't. Alice, I'm gonna have to think on it.
I think you already offered some really great suggestions in terms of like really getting input from the family and talk to the family and see what is reasonable for them. I think that might be a really good starting point. I also think that last session you were talking about power of reinforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder whether you have any suggestions in terms of, how you can combine the power of reinforcement with building routine.
Sure. And like I mentioned, so we're really looking at the environmental arrangement and how we're going to set up our schedule to be most rewarding for our learner. But we've also used a variety of different tangible items, and really trying to figure out and doing preference assessments, like I spoke about last Parent Cafe. What is the most reinforcing thing that's going to motivate this individual to engage in the desired outcome? And how am I going to give a specific instruction that's going to trigger that behavior I want that learner to engage in, so I can give them the desired consequence of that teddy bear or that love, 5-minute love snuggle that we get to give, or there's always a conversation of using candy as a reinforcer, especially during a bedtime, or edibles. Really whatever works best for the family, I think, is what is really important, like you had mentioned. But making sure that everybody is bought in and we're doing things together as a collective is really important when doing our routines and schedules.
I was working with somebody one time, this is Linda, and they were having like a heck of a time with the morning routine, getting this kiddo to their child to complete all of those steps in a morning routine. Like you get up, you get dressed, you eat breakfast, you get ready for school, and then you brush your teeth, which is how they had their routine. And come to find out that their child really liked chocolate milk. And so they set it up so that when the child completed all those steps in that morning routine, then they could have a glass of chocolate milk before they brush their teeth. So, you know, combining the last one, the power reinforcement, I think you're absolutely right, Michaela and Alice, combining reinforcement with incentive to complete the routine. And then I think it's just like anything else, the more you do it, that's why it's called a routine, right? The more you do it, the more it becomes, I have a word, I think it's a made up word, routinized. Right? We're going to routinize it. We're going to make it into a routine. So it's really standard. And the more you do it, the more you go on autopilot. And the more you're on autopilot, the more chance things are going to go smoothly.
Well, and
So
that's
I
why
think
I
practice.
I love that you said that. That's why I put on the Parent Cafe flyer, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit.
Yeah.
The whole is more than the sum, really, of its all parts. And we have to be able to act in a habitual way. So I
Yeah.
think you nailed it on the head.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I really
thank you.
appreciate you guys.
Thanks very much.
Mm-hmm. If you have
Yeah.
any
Thanks for the
questions,
presentation.
email me. Bye, guys. Thank you.
All right. Bye. Thank you.